The ruthless aggression era sure was weird, wasn't it? I mean, there were so many special wrestlers that came out of that era, like John Cena, Randy Orton, and Brock Lesnar, but there were others that were forgotten in the wind. And today, we're going to talk about one of those wrestlers and see if people remember Vladimir Kozlov. Vladimir Kozlov, real name Oleg Prudius, was an overall athlete before he had even signed with WWE because he was a 2005 USA Open Heavyweight Sambo champion and a US kickboxing champion, as well as partaking in rugby, judo, jiu-jitsu, Brazilian jiu-jitsu, and mixed martial arts. So overall, Kozlov was an amazing athlete, so it's no wonder that WWE wanted him. However, he was not only a freak athlete, but he also acted in small TV roles such as The Wire and 25th Hour in those shows, respectively. Kozlov officially joined WWE in 2006 as a part of Deep South Wrestling and worked in OVW as well, and even at one point in time held the OVW Heavyweight Championship. But naturally, it was soon time for Kozlov to make his debut on the main roster, which he did in 2008, when he was basically given the Braun Strowman treatment, where week after week he would destroy jobbers left and right. And of course, since Kozlov was born in Russia, guess what gimmick he was given? The evil foreigner. So after so many squash matches, Kozlov said that he had wanted some real competition. And the weeks following that statement, Kozlov would go after his own real competition, and he would go after Jeff Hardy as well as then WWE champion Triple H. And it was during this time that Kozlov found himself in the WWE title picture when he beat The Undertaker via disqualification after Jeff Hardy got involved in the match between the two, resulting in a WWE title match between Kozlov, Edge, and Triple H at that year's Survivor Series, which Edge ended up winning by pinning Triple H. Although Kozlov did not end up winning the WWE Championship that night, he was still undefeated in one-on-one competition. So that was still something that was unique about the guy, and WWE was still more or less protecting him. Shortly after his triple threat loss, Kozlov would find himself in the Elimination Chamber at No Way Out 2009, where he would end up losing the match, being pinned by The Undertaker. So after failing to capture the WWE Championship twice, what was next for Vladimir Kozlov? It was simple: to get revenge on the man who cost him the title as he looked to challenge The Undertaker at WrestleMania 25 and cement himself as the man who would end The Undertaker's legendary WrestleMania streak. But one man stood in his way, and that was Shawn Michaels. So the two would have a singles match where the winner would face Taker at Mania. And this was where Vladimir Kozlov's streak ended, when Shawn Michaels pinned Kozlov and earned the right to face The Undertaker. Now just imagine if Kozlov had won the match and we got Kozlov versus Taker instead of the amazing match that we got with Shawn Michaels and The Undertaker. Kozlov at this point had more or less lost his steam as well as his momentum, and he was drafted over to ECW, where he really didn't do anything of note, but he was still seen as this massive heel monster. After ECW died a most deserved death, Kozlov ended up going back to Raw, where he teamed with Santino Marella because Santino wanted to team up with him for some reason, and that whole back and forth, or whether or not they're going to tag team with each other, which eventually they would end up doing. Kozlov and Santino Marella would be a tag team for quite a bit. For the most part, they would be quite unsuccessful in capturing tag team gold. However, on an episode of Raw, Kozlov and Santino Marella did end up winning the tag team titles, beating the Usos, Heath Slater, and Justin Gabriel, as well as the team of Mark Henry and Yoshi Tatsu. And we all remember that amazing tag team of the World's Strongest Man and Yoshi Tatsu. How could we forget the incredible tag team of Yoshi Tatsu and Mark Henry? It seemed like WWE were in search of a random tag team, and they just picked two of the most randomest people, one of the most randomest wrestlers who have nothing in common, and just made them into a tag team. However, they did end up losing the tag team titles to Slater and Gabriel at the 2011 Elimination Chamber pay-per-view. And after that, the team of Marella and Kozlov would soon disband, and he wrestled his last match on an episode of SmackDown where he would end up losing to Mark Henry, and Mark Henry would end up breaking his leg after the match. And, that was kayfabe, of course. Of course. And on the same day, no less, WWE released Vladimir Kozlov. However, Kozlov was not done with professional wrestling, as he would wrestle in Japan with the Inoki Genome Federation under the new name Alexander Kozlov. How original. And this monster was sure to make a name for himself in Japan, just like so many others have done in the past, right? Well, he lost a lot. Really, a lot. And then he decided to retire from wrestling. And that is how his wrestling career came to an end. Losing a lot in Japan. Nowadays, Kozlov, he started his own production company called Quasar Entertainment, where he now works as an actor, a producer, and he is the owner of the company that he works in now. So he's worked on many high-end films like John Wick and the Fast and the Furious movies. So Kozlov is doing pretty well for himself post-professional wrestling career. That's what I would say. Overall, I would say that Kozlov had a somewhat successful career in professional wrestling. Although he never would capture any world titles, he was still somewhat big in WWE. I mean, he had an undefeated streak that lasted from 2008 to 2009, and he worked many angles with some of the biggest names in the company at the time, like Shawn Michaels, The Undertaker, Triple H, and Jeff Hardy. I remember watching Vladimir Kozlov as a kid, and he seemed so dominating as a heel, and it seemed as though no one could really beat him. He was just so dominating and brutal as a character. It worked so well for him. Well, that's been it for our little trip down memory lane as I ask you the question, do you remember Vladimir Kozlov?